Hello and welcome back, Formula Forza fans. It is Motegi race weekend, and that only means one thing. It's time for the Formula Forza Pre-Race Podcast, sponsored by JET Motorsport. I'm your host, Derek James, gamertag Magnum278.
And I'm WennaJ, aka Brad James.
And I'm Ryan McDowell, gamertag Siphon68.
Alright, starting off, we'll give you a brief rundown of what we're doing for this podcast. What we're doing is we'll go over the Hockenheim results for this race, groups A and B, and then the points run out. And then LLBM, we have one race to give you guys the results for. And then we'll go right into the community stuff. We got special announcements this week regarding Facebook, and then we got, our regular YouTube videos. And then this week, we're going to give out some of the Twitter and Facebook handles for some of the more important teams. And then we'll go right into the bulk of the podcast, the Motegi predictions. But first things first, Ryan McDowell, did you or did you not say in last podcast that the power cars had a somewhat disadvantage at Hockenheim because there weren't that many big straights? I mean, yeah, they had the big back straight, but you said that the third sector was, the area where for the grip cars to make up their ground, with the exception of, the Hondas by the alien, or the Hondas by Mazdas by the aliens. It was all power cars. So do you care to make a comment on that, Mr. Wrongy Wrong Pants?
Sure. I think you looked at the results totally wrong. You saw power cars actually struggling to get to the front. The only ones you see up there is In Flames in second, not in the win. You see Beater Blazin nearly overtaken by a grip car.
No. What I'm trying to get at is the qualifying.
Oh, okay.
Try to get a qualifying results.
The point still stands that the grip cars had relatively better success here than they did at previous tracks. TLR Eclipse in 6th place. Crazy X Creeper, or RUK Shadow now, he was in 7th. I mean, you didn't see that. And Senna in a grip car, the Lola Mazda, or the Mazda Lola, however you want to say it, in second with a grip car. That wouldn't have happened had this been a power track. So yes, I do still stand by that, and I'll just be floating along in my cloud of right while you're down in your sea of wrong.
We're just going to call you Mr. Wrongy Wrong Pants from now on.
Alright, now that we got through that, Ryan, Hockenheim results, how did it turn out?
Well, since we started with it, let's go ahead and talk about qualifying. We did see quite a bit of surprises here. We saw some people that don't normally get quite such a high result suddenly hitting a much higher level of performance at this track, perhaps because of the benefits of a grip circuit, or who knows what maybe I am totally wrong about this, but it certainly was very surprising to see some of the names we don't normally see in the top 10 up there. And even as you look down the list, it was surprising to see some people that we normally see at the top a little further down than we normally do. I think the biggest shocker for me was FMS Senna. Nobody doubts his raw pace. I think the biggest shocker for me was that in the Mazda Lola that he was able to go so fast. 125, 195 is ludicrous in that Lola chassis. The Serpent Racing guys, I think everybody knew that they were going to be fast. I don't think anybody guessed that they would lock out the second row. And then TLR Eclipse, another shocker, really, that he was able to go 6th. Some of the shockers down the list are more surprising. Drake Hellspawn 8th, no restriction, 8th. It's no secret that the track doesn't really suit the Panos very well, but still 8th place for Drake Hellspawn. We all know he's an alien. He may be able to get more out of that Panos, but by the end he was still high 125s. Before Hockenheim took place, there was a switch there. FMS Senna left Pennzoil Zexel Racing, joined AVR, and you got Pennzoil Zexel picking up HMR Motorhead. Last we talked, we didn't know who Bullen was going to pick up, or if he was even going to get somebody to pick up. So he picked up HMR Motorhead. Motorhead qualified right behind Bullen. I don't think Bullen could have really asked for much more from a teammate. Certainly gets him into Group A there. Maybe they had more time in that Bentley. Maybe they were hoping for passing points. Who knows? The Toyotas certainly struggled here, and we saw Team Repsol get into Group A for the first time. CP Skate A13 there. Alex P almost pushed out of Group A in A14. That's kind of where Bullen was when he had the 10%. So perhaps that's really where we're finding it, is that 10% can push you, depending on the track, almost push you out of Group A. So yeah, that's kind of surprising there. Johnny Two Shoes not here for Hockenheim, so he's not even in the qualifying results. In his place, Midnight Racer X, almost on pole for Group B, gets the second slot, but in a weird turn of events, CP Skate unable to connect to the race in Group A, so he voluntarily submits to swap place with the first from Group B, which would have been Chaos in Action for Tech Life Racing. So in the end, he wasn't able to connect to Group B either. So Midnight Racer X ends up moving up to that front spot in Group B anyway. Yeah, it was a pretty surprising qualifying, to say the least. Did you guys have any particular issues or troubles here at Hockenheim?
Yeah, I did. First, well, I was gone most of the week because of work and sports, real life sports. But and I didn't get much practice time in, and I found it very hard Saturday night. Like, I started qualifying at like 9:45 Saturday night. That was the first time I was able to actually get a session in, and I found it very hard to be fast just straight out the gate. Like Brad said during the podcast, or we both kind of said it, practice makes perfect for qualifying for these races. And I mean, when I started qualifying, when I submitted my first time, I was like, I think I was like B8th, and I was like, wow, either it is really quick or I am doing something terribly wrong. And I mean, it turned out it was both. I mean, everybody was really quick this weekend through the entire list. I mean, there was less than 2 seconds between the field through like B10. There was like 3 seconds through B10. And I mean, that's like really surprising. I mean, we've had closer qualifyings, but if you look, there was a lot of dividing lines. Like, there was like a group of drivers with one set of times, and there was another group of drivers, farther down or higher up, that kind of clustered around the same, time. And that kind of showed up during the race. You got groups of guys that were around the same speed, driving with each other in both lobbies. And the trouble I was having during qualifying was I was having trouble controlling the car. I mean, I had a setup going that I thought would be foolproof, and I did 2 sessions, and I was way slower than I thought I would be. And I had kind of a dumb moment. I went through my settings. Got frustrated and started drifting, because that's kind of how I calmed down. And I looked through my settings, and I had simulation steering off, and I had it on normal. So I went back real quick, did a time, and that's how I ended up with my 1:26.3 to get me A15. I mean, it's not just practice that does it. Make sure you have the right settings to do a good qualifying time. I mean, you think maybe, oh no, I turned traction control off, or I had stability control on. Why does it matter? I mean, if you're so used to driving a certain way, it makes a difference. I mean, if something throws your game off, you start noticing it. I mean, I noticed it. I didn't know quite what it was, but I mean, I figured it out, and I was able to get a time in right before qualifying ended. Thank goodness.
Yeah. What about you, Brad? I think it was you that first said last week that the key to a good time at Hockenheim was practice is perfect, and I am pretty sure that with 2 hours to go, you had not submitted a time yet. What ended up happening there?
Laziness.
No. Kind of. But, no, I had sports going on. Same thing with Derek. So, I don't know. I was just kind of between school and sports, I didn't really have time to, and being lazy, I guess. So I just tossed the time in, and like usual, I completely smashed that time during the race, and I'm like, oh hey, I could have got like A5 or like something like that. So, I guess I'm a bit of a hypocrite, you could say, because it's like practice, man, and then I didn't practice. So I don't know. You can make fun of me all you want. I don't care.
I do anyways.
Yeah, you did end up going a time that would have put you A4. Actually, in the race, you ran a 125.570, and that would have put you. It would have split the XPR guys in the second row.
Yeah.
So you would have been second row, Group A, had you been able to do that. However, your 125.570, if I remember correctly, was due to a corner cut in turn 1. So maybe you would have been close to that. I'm not quite sure. Right. So anyway, wrapping up qualifying, the other thing to mention here is that we did have a newcomer team, Audi Tech Racing, with Fire Dragon and Fish 2197.
Supported by JET
Also,
Motorsport.
yes, also a JET Motorsport affiliate there, stepping in with their the Audi R18, and they really struggled to find pace here, and ultimately, after this race weekend, we'll get to this, after the race weekend they ended up paying the fee, and they're going to have their points wiped for this race weekend to switch over to the Honda. But we'll get to that in just a minute. When we get to the race at Hockenheim, wow, it was a great race to watch. I mean, Sebring was, I declared it as the spectators' race, but good Lord, I don't think I could have envisioned a better race for Hockenheim either, with an epic battle between In Flames and Senna. How it worked out, Senna stayed right on In Flames' tail right off the start. There were 2 restarts. In both of those restarts, the Ferraris got around both the Lola and the Bentley, and they were leading. And in the actual start, they kind of got boxed right off the start. Both Senna and In Flames got good starts. The Ferraris were kind of held back. They didn't get their ridiculous launch that they usually do, and then it was Senna trying to make a move on In Flames. I think it was lap 3 that Senna finally went down the inside into turn 4, and then 2 small mistakes from In Flames at just critical spots. He made a mistake into turn 3, which is right where you need to carry all of your speed. He went off just a little bit, which sacrificed his speed the whole way down into the hairpin, highest speed on the whole circuit there, and into the hairpin. XPR Roadrunner outbrakes him, gets ahead of him. Then into turn 6, arguably the next corner. It's not. I mean, there's turn 5, which is just a full speed kink. Then the next corner for braking, turn 6, In Flames goes wide, and Overdrive gets by him. So now he's got 2 Ferraris between him and Senna, now the race leader, and he just too many laps behind those Ferraris. And that really even wasn't the whole spotlight of that race. You got behind that, you had BTR Blazin, miraculously did not lag out of the race. The Boulin Wall 5 in 6th, BTR Villeneuve and Crazy Creeper for AVR, now, like I said, our UK Shadow, in 8th. And that was a really, really close battle, and they were all within like a second of each other. One of them, I believe it was Boulin and Villeneuve were, just fractions of a second apart as they crossed the line. And that was just crazy to watch. And early in the race, it was even more interesting because you saw Magnum, Eclipse. Like Eclipse was kind of in that TLR Eclipse was in that mess between 5th and 8th.
It was like down to 8th or 9th. It was a train of cars again.
Right. I guess one of the surprises very early, lap 1, HMR Motorhead taken out by his own connection into the hairpin. It appeared to be a lag hit into Boulin Wall 5, but when you watch it, he never actually touches Bulin. He just kind of spins out into the wall and collects a ton of damage. So HMR Motorhead for Pennzoil Zexel only ended up bringing home 13th, but that is great points for Pennzoil Zexel. Much better than, 33 points, way better than a 0. So that helps keep them in the race there. Chaos and Action for TLR ends up bringing home 11th, and Alex P. not able to do any better than 10th. Magnum, keeping JET Motorsport alive, brings home 9th, right in the tail, trailing that group of very tight racers. He brings home 9th. Later in the race, In Flames does end up working his way past those two Ferraris with maybe 8 laps left to go, and starts laying down just some ridiculous lap times trying to catch Senna. And I believe it was a 16-second gap. No, it wasn't quite that. It was like a 10 or so second gap. And by the end, it was just a 2.5 second gap, unable to make up that difference. Just couldn't quite lap that much faster than Senna. He set a 1:24.9 during the race. That is just insane, a 24.9. I mean, that's qualifying pace right there. I mean, he had a 24.839 in qualifying, and that's 3 days of sitting there honing it. To get a 24.9 in the race, under race conditions with cars on the track, that's just incredible to me. So you end up seeing Senna bring home the win. And let's talk about the significance of this win just a little bit. This is ABR's first win of the season. It also means the first win for Lola as a manufacturer, and it also means only the 4th time in Formula Forza history that we've ever had a back-to-back win. So the first time it happened was TLR Eclipse did it the very first 2 races of Formula Forza history at Suzuka and Catalunya in 2011. Then you had I did it, Siphon 68, the very next 2 races of the 2011 calendar at Silverstone and Road America. Then it didn't happen again until the very beginning of the 2012 season. Batman LMP1 does it for the first 2 events, and then it doesn't happen again that entire season. And just now we had FMS Senna do it at Sebring and then here at Hockenheim. So that was an incredible win. Did it with 2 different cars. I don't think we'll see that ever again. That was really, really incredible. Of course, we're not going to see another win from him this weekend. We have advance notice that he won't be here at the Motegi GP, and even if he would have been, he would have had a 10% power restriction, so really just would have been too much to overcome, I think, for a three-peat victory there. But wow, what a race from him, and I think a lot of people's eyes are opened about what is possible with that Mazda. I know mine are, at least. So yeah, that's Group A. What a crazy race there. And Brad, you got anything for us on Group B?
It's the same old good race from Group B. Slower guys fighting it out. But real surprise for me was Midnight Racer X. I'd never seen him race before, but holy crap! Like right after the first corner, he was just gone. I was like, jeez. And so then me and Bloody Kane battled it out for the remainder of the race up until pit stops were due to the great JET Motorsport pit staff passed him there. But what really surprised me after that was that BTR Raikkonen also got past him during the pit cycle. Because he was there the whole time behind us, but he was like, not really a threat. So then he gets by, and yeah, he just held the position for the rest of the race. And finishing positions were Midnight in first, myself in second, Raikkonen in third, Kane in fourth, Scurry in fifth, 100th tie. In 6th, Cookie Monster, that would for JET Motorsport. In 7th, Chicken in Wheeling FD. In 8th, and Fire Dragon in 9th. And 2 lag-outs, and did not start for CB Skate. But, you know, I don't really know anything after that. It's just the top 4 was like really what I was focused on, or what I was able to look at, because we were just pretty far ahead, like 30 or 20 seconds ahead of the next car in 5th. So that's basically all I can really say.
It looks like a pretty close battle, though, between Cookie Monster and 100th tie. I'm not sure how long that battle was going on, but they only a second between those two. So Cookie Monster almost snagging Group B 6th from 100th tie there for Caterham. Yeah, Bloody Kane, I haven't talked to him yet, but wow, 1 second also just behind BTR Raikkonen. So that he must have just been fuming in the cockpit, getting beat out for podium spot in Group B by BTR Raikkonen. But yeah, I had heard from several people that the Group B race was a really good race.
All right, Brad. How about we shift topics here? Do you have our LLBM results for Catalunya?
Yes, I do. And real quick before I start, there was a race this last weekend at Silverstone for LLBM, but unfortunately the website we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with the website, so we can't see the results from Silverstone. And the problem is I wasn't there, so I can't really tell you anything that I already saw when I was racing. So I can't tell anything about Silverstone. But we can, though, tell you about Catalunya, because those are up on the website. We had a decent race in the challenge class, I can tell you that. With Drake Hellspawn winning, and LMPC, no surprise, and Overdrive in 2nd, Siphon in 3rd, Cookie Monster in 4th, Fractal in 5th, Decepticon GH48 in 6th, myself in 7th, and Formula Forza newcomer Fire Dragon in 8th. And I don't know what happened, but I was just having tons of trouble at Catalunya, which is usually a great track for me. But I kept on screwing up and then letting guys by. So I was just trying to stay out of last the whole race. And what it sounded like was a pretty good battle up front. Ryan, can you talk about that?
Yeah, I can. Actually, it wasn't that great of a battle. I wish it had been better. What ended up happening was I had qualified and thought I was going to be competing with Drake Hellspawn for pole, but he ended up not submitting a qualifying time, so I was kind of left at the top with a time that left me restricted. I was more than a second quicker than Cookie Monster, who was the next quickest qualifier, so I entered the race with 5% restriction. Drake Hellspawn and Overdrive started at the back without qualifying, and by lap 4, Drake Hellspawn had passed me. By lap 8, Overdrive had passed me, and there was nothing I could do. I mean, on the straights, they just had so much more power that there was no defending it, really. So I just had to let it, I had to move over and not be a jerk about it and just let it happen, because there was no way I was going to hold that off for the entire race. So I don't know. In the end, it still took a bit to wrangle the car and stay ahead of the rest of the pack. But it came down to just a consistency race. As soon as you can take that, with the 10% power restriction, you can take turn 3 full throttle without really too much effort, and that made it somewhat easy to stay ahead of the rest of the pack. But I mean, it's with Cookie Monster and Fractal, you can't say it's a cakewalk at all. I mean, those guys will take it from you if you make a mistake. So it was still a good race. It just left me frustrated at that specific race. I wish I had achieved a little more there, but hey, that's racing sometimes.
Derek, you want to talk about the GTC class?
Yes, I would love to. Pretty much, well, to be frank about it, we're starting from the start of the race because that was very key for a couple drivers out of the 6 people who showed up for GTC. As you'd expect, Bulenwald on pole, got a great start, and then just left. I mean, we looked up and he was gone. TLR Eclipse, who actually I believe started in the second place, in the second grid spot, had actually stalled the start. I don't know how you do it in a car like that. I don't know if he just missed the time or what, but pretty much all of us, the rest of us behind him, third on back, got around him at the start, and pretty much from that lap 1 until pits came around, until the pit stops cycled around, it was me in second, Chaos in second, Chaos in Action in second, Terminator in third, me in fourth, Uno in fifth, and then Eclipse, all of us in a train behind each other for about 6 or 7 laps. And then I decided, well, after getting around Chaos in Action, I decided to duck into the pits and get into clean air. But the battle kept going for them until pit stops cycled around again. And Chaos actually did not pit until the second to last lap of the race. He was on a long stint strategy and decided that he was going to see how far he could go and get ahead of us without pitting. And it seemed like towards the end of the actual stint that he had, he kind of lost some grip in the car. After doing close to 30 or so odd laps on a set of tires like that at the pace he was running, it finally gave up and he kind of dropped off at times. We slowly kind of caught up to him, and he ended up dropping back to 4th place in class for the rest of the race. And the actual results of the race rounded out with Bulenwald 5, again, of course, in first. Me coming around JET Motorsport, Magnum 278 in second. And then Terminator for RD2, third, rounding out the podium. And then Chaos in fourth, like I said. Dynamic Uno for RD2 in fifth. And Eclipse lagged out, just like he did in the Formula Forza race. I don't know if he was having connection issues this weekend, but he actually lagged out mid-race and ended up finishing last in class in 6th. Moving on now, Ryan, you have a very special community announcement for Formula Forza. What is it?
So we've been trying for the longest time to build a following for Formula Forza. One thing that makes Formula Forza kind of special is the ratio of drivers to followers. We have about 50 to 100 registered drivers. There's about 50 that participate, but with the drivers we've had in the past or just registered eligible drivers, it's somewhere around 100 or 120 or so that are eligible. But our fan base has been growing. The number of people that watch and read the posts and are just listening to the podcasts or whatever, and we've been watching that number grow. And just this past week, we finally crossed the milestone of 500 likes, and that's a huge accomplishment for us. We're really proud that we've been able to make a racing environment that people are really into, and I think that's something that everybody that's listening to this, you're a part of it. You guys are what make us strive to make the content that keeps bringing more people to us. I think just speaking right now, we went from 497 likes to right now we're sitting at 516 likes in the matter of, I don't know, about 36 hours. I mean, it kind of crazy, how big of a leap we took in just a short amount of time. And that's all thanks to the dedicated members that go out and tell their friends about it or post about us in forums and stuff like that. And we certainly appreciate it. And anything we can do to make the community bigger and more supportive makes all of these races count for more, really. Behind the scenes, it means so much more if there's a fan base that is watching this and following the season than if it's just a bunch of guys racing together, which is still fun. But I mean, the 500 likes, 500 fans. That's really a huge accomplishment, and we couldn't be more proud to be at the helm of this great experience. So thanks, guys.
Hopefully we can get to 1,000 pretty soon.
Yeah. Well, the next step really is at 516, I guess, makes us the second largest organized racing for Forza Motorsport 4. Now that sounds kind of niche, but for Forza Motorsport 4, that's kind of a big thing to be the second largest organized racing based on followers. The largest, however, we're only about 30 and change likes away from being the largest. Tora, many people know them, the Online Racing Association, is somewhere around 550 likes. So it really, the next milestone is to become the largest, and then start working with, some of the others to see if we can't grow the community. I mean, honestly, to me, on one side, I'm very proud that 500 makes us the second largest, and that, if we were at 600 right now, we'd be the largest. But on the other side, I look at how big is the Forza community in general, and with organized racing, personally, I feel that is the only way to play these games. That's how you get, the most out of these games is organized racing. If all you did was play Forza and you did the public lobbies, you're, just ruining the experience you could be having. At least in my thought, I can't go back to public lobbies now. Now that I've done something like Formula Forza or even other organized motorsport like LLBM or Tora or VM, whatever. Any of the big guys, any organized racing, there's always room for more there because, you look at if the Forza community is somewhere around 250,000 people own the game, and the current racing community is somewhere around 60,000 to 80,000, if 600 likes makes us the largest organized racing, the mass majority of the racing population is missing out. They're missing out on truly the best part of the game. But hopefully we can grow awareness, and especially with things like the rear view mirror article includes, or big organized events, that we can start to grow a bigger and bigger fan base, and things will only get better from there. The bigger we get, the more things we can bring to the table.
Actually, I'm going to interject real quick. This might not be about, like on our script or what we were kind of planning on talking about, but Brad and I have had this idea for a while. I mean, Ryan, we've been, us from the Formula Forza team, the LBM team, we've been coming together the last few weeks and trying to come up with maybe some possible series for Formula Forza to grow and try to include more of you guys that want to drive and there's not enough room in R1. We have some ideas like a GT4 or GT3 championship. There's just straight GTs that are S-Class. We have Super GT, and Brad and I have been trying to toss around the idea, we've been tossing around the idea of a drift league. I mean, I've been enlightened in the past couple months that the biggest base of drivers in Forza Motorsport is actually the drifting community. They do the most for it. There's more people do the drifting than there are the grip lobbies. I mean, if you guys have any ideas for a possible series we could do, or if you want to vote for one, leave a comment in the comment section of this video. Comment on one of the Facebook posts, or do whatever you need to do to get the word out. If you think we should do something, talk to us about it. If we're going to grow as a community and as a fan base and as a group of drivers / fans / people just paying attention, we need your guys' feedback. It's not enough just to sit there and like the page, like a post on the Facebook page, or go and like a team's page. We need your guys' feedback. I mean, if we could tailor this to what the public thinks. If Mazda Cup, it was kind of, people are thinking, well, it was kind of bad, it didn't include much. I mean, yeah, it was exciting racing, but there wasn't enough depth to it. If you guys have another idea, talk to us. It is that easy. Leave a comment on the YouTube page, leave a comment on one of the team pages, leave a comment on one of the Formula Forza posts on the website. You have a lot of mediums to get the word out, and if you want us to do something, talk to us. It's not that hard. We love you guys as fans, and we cherish you guys, and we're 100% behind everything that you think. And if you think we should do something, get the word out. We'll listen. We're not going to ignore you and go, whatever, Rook, get out of the way. No, we will listen to you. If you think, hey, we should do a Hummer lobby where we all just wreck each other, okay, fine, we'll make it a big one-time event. We'll do something with that. Just if you guys have ideas, put them out there. We love you guys. We need your help. And sorry about that. Sorry for that little, monologue, get on my soapbox. But moving on to the actual stuff we're supposed to talk about, our videos of the week is become kind of a staple of these podcasts. I know some of you guys, well, you're like, meh, YouTube videos. But these are interesting. Brad and I go through every week and we try to find good videos, and we find the top 2 that we think should make it. And the first one, our first video, not necessarily the number 1, but one of the videos we like the most, the Mighty Car Mods Drift S13 reveal. I mean, yeah, Ryan gives us crap all of the time about Mighty Car Mods. He says it's like the only thing we talk about, but it's so cool. And there's a video up with a link here in the description of they unveiled their Drift S13 that they built over 4 episodes, and it is so cool. And a Drift Pig makes an appearance. If you follow the series even a little bit, you'll probably figure out who he is, but he makes an appearance, and it's not even, there's almost no talking in the entire video. It's just glory shots of the car. It's so cool. I would recommend a watch, even if you don't like Mighty Car Mods. If you just like drifting, watch it. There's some awesome shots. And then our second video of the week, the one that Brad picked out, flipping the Mini Cooper unassisted backflip. Brad, care to talk about that?
Yep. They actually did this a while ago, and GoPro put a video out of just like their cameras that they had on the vehicle. And it's just like a slow motion. It's like a minute long, maybe. It's just a slow motion shot of like the car just going through the flip and like different angles and stuff. Way cool. Like, nothing's cooler than watching a Mini Cooper do a backflip without any help. Like, nothing's ever done like that in cars, except for maybe it's not really a backflip, but like Rob Dyrdek doing the kickflip in the Chevy Sonic. Same sort of thing, but Mini Cooper, way cooler. So that was my video of the week.
Yeah, I saw that one. That's a pretty good one. It's basically on snow, right? So they've got I think it's actually the Cooper Countryman, right? It's like
it's a rally car.
Right. So they run this thing down a very short runway, and then it goes up this ramp. I mean, they say it's unassisted. There's nothing like generating the rotation other than the ramp. When it goes up the ramp, he gooses it at the last second, and that starts his rotation. And then he lands on a snow mound, and there's like a 12-foot gap that he just is climbing through the air in this thing. It is. I would recommend definitely checking that out. That is a pretty cool video.
All right, Brad. Moving on. You have, well, like I said earlier about getting to know the teams and what they do. Brad, can you give out some of the information of some of the Formula Forza teams that have important information to put out for the league?
Yep, so I'm going to put out, let's say 4 things here. Basically, another medium for you guys to learn more about the teams that are in Formula Forza. Get to listen, like, during qualifying, what kind of times they're doing, or, like, how they're practicing and stuff. So we're going to start off here with, surprise, JET Motorsport. You can follow them on Twitter at JET Motorsport, capital JET _Motorsport, and you can also like them on Facebook at JET Motorsport. I know we put things up on JET Motorsport's Facebook page like Wallpaper Wednesday, or just basically posting pictures every day about certain topics, and we also post classified car ads that you can like go buy a car somewhere. If you like that sort of stuff. You can also follow Serpent Racing on Twitter and like them on Facebook. I know, isn't their Facebook and Twitter fairly new?
Yeah, the Facebook was actually created like 2 or 3 weeks ago, if I believe. The Twitter's been around for probably since the beginning of R1 2013, but the Facebook is fairly new, so with your guys' help, we'd like to get them some likes on Facebook. get the word out.
The other interesting thing about Serpent Racing is they are an officially sanctioned SRT virtual motorsport team. So, like the actual SRT from Chrysler sanctions Serpent Racing as a virtual motorsport team.
Too bad they use a Ferrari. Meh.
Yeah, it's a Fiat, Chrysler, Ferrari, sort of.
Yeah, there's a connection there. Well, it's kind of hard to make, but there is a connection. We'll say they use Mopar power.
We'll give it to them. Next, you can follow our partner series on Twitter and Facebook, and that would be LLBM Motorsports. I know they post some great things on both, actually. And it's not just the league stuff that they do. They also post a lot of stuff for their actual teams in R1. And then, finally, the piece de resistance. You can follow, believe it or not, Formula Forza on Twitter. What? No way. But you can follow them on Twitter. I know, right? It's crazy. And as 516 of you know, you can like them on Facebook. Insanity. It's crazy. So you can follow all those teams and organizations on Facebook and Twitter, and you'll get a crap ton more information.
We know there are more teams that have Facebook pages and Twitter feeds, and we'll get to those in the other podcasts. So if you own one of these other teams and you're like, hey, why didn't you talk about us? Don't worry, we're going to get to you in some of the future podcasts and whatnot. We just want to keep this, right, exactly. We don't want to just totally, here's every single team that's in there, because holy cow, we'd be on here for forever.
Oh, we could.
Longer than we usually are.
All right, let's get to the final topic, but the most important of this week. Gentlemen, Motegi. Ryan, starting off with you, Mr. Administrator, Mr. Caterham Chairman, Mr. Principal of everything Formula Forza. Predictions. What do you think is going to happen?
Mr. Wrongy McWrongpants.
Yeah, whatever you say, it's probably going to be wrong, so don't listen to him.
Okay, well, we'll go by the assumption that I'm going to be totally wrong here. But this is going to be an interesting race. I personally, as a driver, I hate this track. I hated it the first season. I hated it last season. I am glad I'm not driving it this season. It's the thing about this track, though, is it always makes for really good racing. But I
think you just have terrible luck here. That's why you hate it.
That could be it. It could be my kryptonite or whatever. But I do think we're going to see some really interesting racing here. This track, more than I think any other, comes down to practice. Nobody likes driving this track that I've met. Like, nobody says, oh, Motegi's my favorite track. But the guys that do practice well, I think we'll see some surprises. I don't think it'll be quite like Hockenheim, where we see some huge surprises. But in the race, I think the guys that spent that little bit of extra time are going to make some surprise moves, because they know how the course is laid out. They know where those bumps are. They know how the banking works and entry speeds on these corners. I'm not entirely sure who's going to make that up. I'll guess that we might see another surprise performance from Caterham Team GB, maybe Scurrier XY up in the top 10 range. I do think that this track favors the Panos, though. These are several long straights followed by heavy braking, and the Panos and Ferrari are both particularly good at what this track offers. The Ferrari is going to be good at braking and acceleration, which you're going to need because a lot of these are stop and go turns. You get into like the hairpin there, or turn 14. The last turn is kind of a low speed. It's kind of mid to low speed there. So you still need a lot of acceleration, and that's where the Ferraris are going to come into play. The Mazda Lola, no idea what it's going to be capable of here, but I am still going to say nowhere near the top 5 for AVR this week, and that's simply because you've got the track doesn't necessarily suit the Mazda Lola, but you've also got whoever, if it's team captain Lewis or team owner Lewis that comes down to take Senna's seat for this weekend in the AVR, the Lola, he's going to still be facing the same 10% that his star driver FMS Senna would have been using had he been racing. So really, it's going to be a struggle for them this week. With XBR not there, it'll be interesting to see who moves up and takes those positions as well. We could see finally a BTR victory here. In Flames has no restriction. He has immunity. Buhlenwald finally finished off the podium enough that now he is totally unrestricted. So we could see a pretty good battle there between Buhlen and In Flames. You know, I'm not really sure. This is a hard one to tell, and I think that the qualifying is going to be one thing, and I don't think it's going to translate really at all to what's going to happen in the race. I think we'll see some big surprises in the race because this is a tricky track, and there's some spots that are wide that you can take more than one line, and then there's a lot of corners where you got to be single file. So if you're off, you're going to be severely off, and somebody's going to take advantage there. I know this track reminds me of the incident that happened last year, where going into turn 5, I tried to avoid rear-ending Kyle, that's Clementalith, or BTR Villeneuve, into turn 5. So I ditched it off into the sand to the left, got back on track. WennaJ here, Brad, gets the better of me because I had to go out in the sand, gets the better of me, goes around, then loses the car entirely in turn 6 and smashes into both myself and Q25, which was... what was that? That was Chris's teammate from last year, right? With
yeah.
What was that? Tricycle Motorsport.
They were in Acura.
You were right.
Yeah.
01Bs. But yeah, that was a horrific accident there. I mean, it didn't take out too many people, just the 3 of us, but it was a pretty dramatic accident to say the least.
Races.
Yeah. But that turn 6, the track itself was built by Honda, and they did it in such a fashion that they tried to take corners from different tracks around the world to act as testing. So
So like Coda.
Yeah, a little bit like that, yeah. Like turn 6 is supposed to be an inverted 130R. You're just going the other way. 7-8 is a section of... it's a European track that's not on the Formula Forza calendar, but the hairpin is taken from Hockenheim, I believe. It is the Suzuka hairpin. I'm sorry, it just goes the other way. It's a downhill hairpin, and then the 13-14 is a chicane that was modeled after the Le Mans chicane. So it's pretty interesting to see all these, and there's more than just what I'm mentioning here. They're just escaping me at the moment, but it will be interesting to see how all of that plays out in the race, because there are technical sections to the track, and then there are not so technical sections to the track. So kind of a mixed bag here at Motegi, and it's really hard to predict, except for last year we had a 139.3 set by Bloody Kane for the pole position, and I think we're gonna see 38s for pole position this year.
Completely blow that time away.
Yeah,
37s.
37s. That's all right. Well, enough about what I think. Brad, what do you think's going to happen here at Motegi?
I think the qualifying time from last year is going to get absolutely smashed. Buhlenwald, no restriction. In Flames, number 1 driver on leaderboards, 38 at Motegi. I think he's going to completely annihilate the time. I'm thinking he's going to get a 37. That's just my guess. What do you think, Derek?
35's going way out on a limb here.
Yeah, right. You kidding me?
Yeah, you're right. I'm just blowing wind. Whatever. But I think qualifying wise, that the average lap on the website 141 dead. That is a very conservative time considering the speeds that people are going at this year. I know it was set kind of in the off season, kind of taking last year's times into account and a current test driver's times. But 141, that might actually be like pretty close to the bottom or mid lobby B. Because, I mean, I'm predicting pretty much 38, 39 through 40, through probably mid-40s. That's going to be lobby A. Depending on how much people qualify or practice this week, like Ryan said, how that is the key to this track, we might even see a shorter gap between 1st to 15th A lobby-wise. I mean, who knows? It may just be mid-38s or 37s, like Brad said, to like mid-39s. I mean, it could be even closer than that. I mean, it's such a tricky track to predict that who knows what's going to happen. I mean, qualifying, you could kind of throw some stones at the birds and kind of you might hit one and get right, like Ryan with the Panos. That definitely has an advantage. The power cars
Or wrong.
Or wrong, yeah, like wrong pants. But you can somewhat predict what's going on this week. But race-wise, the race predictions, what people have thought, have never been what people say they are. So no matter what we say this week, we're all going to be Mr. Wrong Pants. So I mean, we're blowing smoke at what we think the race predictions are going to be. Qualifying again, you can maybe get some stuff right and kind of there's some generalities that you could probably predict. Just be like, yeah, the power cars are going to have their sections of this track, and the grip cars are going to have their sections. I mean, there's such, like Ryan said, a mixed bag of ways to go about this track that who knows what is going to happen this weekend. Anything could happen. I mean, you could have a guy that sat in Group B every race this year suddenly make mid-Group A if he puts the effort into it. You could have one of the aliens not put any effort into it this week and end up bottom of Group A or top of Group B. I mean, there's so much that could happen. I mean, there's really no way of predicting it.
I'll interject one more car that I think might have better than normal success here, and I think that's going to be the Acura. So JET Motorsport, Derek, you may be in luck here, and I think you can correct me on this. I think James Hall is coming back this for this week. Is that right?
Actually, yes, he is. He had a talk with his doctor. He went and had his hand checked out. He should be fine for the rest of the year. I mean, it would be better for him to rest a little bit, but the condition his hand's at right now, he can fully come back till the rest of the year. He was talking to me Sunday after he got back from our sporting event, and he was telling me that he thinks Cookie should take over for the rest of the year. James wanted to do just Motegi, because that was the first race that we had actually met as drivers, and he wanted to I apologize. He wanted it to be like a kind of, well, it sounds kind of weird, but an anniversary race, so to speak, with me and him, because that kind of, shut up, that kind of started the whole thing with me and him. That's where we actually talked for the first time, and I know it took Mazda Cup for us to get to really know each other, but that was the first time we'd actually met as drivers, and he wanted to come back for that. But after that conversation, I kind of let him simmer and sit for a few minutes, and he's, pardon my French, but he says, what the hell am I thinking? I'm good enough to come back for the rest of the year. I don't want to let you guys down. I'm coming back. And, I mean, we love Cookie. We're trying to get him a spot to fill in with another team. That's just willing that one of our team principals can let him in. But he has a spot if he wants to. I mean, he's a good enough driver. We want him back. But James should be back for the rest of the season, and we are so happy that he's back. Right, Brad?
Yeah. Another thing, I got a new driver finally. Woo! Yay! First time ever.
Is he committed?
Yeah. Don't ask that question.
So who is he? Why don't you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah,
He's
Brad.
British.
Wow.
That's like adds 5 horsepower already.
Yeah, I mean that's like automatic Group A. But I met him. Well, actually, I'd never really talked to him before until I asked him to drive for me. I just passed him one time at Sebring. He was a GTC driver. I was an LPG driver. I just passed him. But I messaged him because I knew he was a decent driver from what I've heard and what we talked about in the podcast. So I was like, yo, maybe I could get him in the team. And I messaged him once, and then he's like, what car are you driving? And I said 787. He's like, I'm in. So it sounds like he's committed. He said he loves the livery, which is good because it's freaking amazing looking.
So you've got Addy. So just to get the name out there.
Yes, Addy Bull.
I'm not even really sure how to fully pronounce it, but that's kind of the going what everybody calls him, Addy. Driving for you this weekend. Where you have any predictions on where Addy's gonna come at Motegi qualifying?
I'm feeling a Group A because he says he's really quick in the 787, and I guess I trust him on that. So I'm feeling a Group A. I couldn't tell you where in Group A, but you know, there's a really quick guys. So I'm gonna say 7 to 15 in there.
The other thing that's going to be interesting about this track is the pit entrance is before the chicane, right? And we all had a good laugh at the how not to pit at Motegi video. And if you haven't seen that, go to our Facebook page and take a look at that video. It's from the 2011 season. My teammate Squishy P in Lotus Racing were racing the Dyson Porsches, the RS Spider, and he makes a last-minute maneuver into the short entrance for the pit at Motegi. And for those of you that have raced enough Motegi full circuit, you know that only the long entrance is open on the full. So he came in the short entrance right into the cement barrier, smashed his car. But aside from that, the long entrance has kind of a weird kink to it. I know we keep talking about that, but it can play a factor. If somebody gets that pit entrance wrong, you could see a retirement from that, you know? So I hate that it always comes up that, oh, what's going to happen? But it seriously can play a role if people don't practice their pit entrances.
What's our pit delta for this week?
It's a pretty straight pit. So I don't think it's going to be terribly long. It's not like Laguna Seca or Road Atlanta or something like that where you just have the 5-minute pit delta. But generally the pit delta is somewhere around 25 to 30 seconds. So I don't know what the distance is going to be at race pace. But you'll just have to either be brave at the beginning and try and get out of the way, or try and go as long as you can and just try and plan for smooth air. I mean, you'll have to kind of play it by ear or do some testing with other teams to try and figure out what that pit delta gap is. Unfortunately, I don't have that answer for you. I knew what it was in Forza 3, and I knew what it was last year, but apologize, I forget what it is now. But the interesting thing here, I think, is going to be that the power cars, you would think with this many straights that the power cars are going to have at least some kind of advantage here, and I really think that they don't, because you're not even getting close to those top speeds. The only one that's even remotely long enough is the full throttle. If you can master it, the full throttle turn 4 down into turn 5, and the exit from the hairpin at turn 10 down into 11. So it's going to be, I don't think we're going to see anybody cracking 200. I will be a little shocked if they do. Maybe I'm wrong pants here. Don't know. But I really don't think it's going to be power track centric here. I think we've really passed, other than Le Mans coming up and Road America, I think we've passed our power track circuits.
Yeah, until we get to Le Mans, of course, and then hits the fan for, pardon my French, for the grip cars. It's like, well, I guess I'll have to bite the bullet on this one.
Right. I mean, I guess, okay.
Or
so,
you could be Mr. Wrongy Wrong Pants.
So we do have Road America next, so I guess I'll eat my words on that one. We do have a power track coming up right after this. And then you've got Silverstone, Sonoma at Infineon, Nürburgring Grand Prix, and Mugello. And, other than Road America, those are all grip circuits. So we're going to have this late season where you see all the grip cars just, gobble up a ton of points here. And it'll be interesting to see what the power cars can do to stop it.
Close to about it for all of our predictions. I mean, there will of course be more on Facebook and on all the Twitter feeds and stuff. But I guess for right now, gentlemen, what are your guys' closing thoughts for the entire podcast, Ryan?
I suppose final thought for Motegi is going to be the turn 7 and 8. I think that is going to be the critical spot. The guys that can get that just nailed, turn 7 and 8, that's who's going to be our winners. The guys that can move up relative. I mean, there's going to be no miracles here. If you can nail 7 and 8, it's not like you can win the race. I mean, just from nailing those. But the guys that can really nail down those two corners, that's really going to pick you up a ton of positions there if you can master that, because that's a tricky right left that always leaves you struggling for grip on the exit of turn 8.
I think that, same thing as usual, practice makes perfect, but hopefully I qualify before an hour left so I can actually back up my word here. But yeah, practice makes perfect. 7 and 8, like Ryan said, practice that. Could win the race, could get some passing points, But, other than that, work on your setups. This is a difficult track to set up for, long straights, high grip corners, and high braking. So make sure you tweak your setups a bit there. And final thought for you, Derek?
My final thought, the theme is going to be Screwderia. The Ferraris this week are stuck in the middle of everything. It is a very neutral track, like you said. The power cars have their advantage areas, and the grip cars have their advantage areas. And the Ferrari as a car is like near dead down the middle between them both. It has enough power to compete with the big power cars, and it has enough grip to take the fight to the grip cars in the corners. And this is such a neutral track that I bet they're going to find themselves kind of bouncing back between groups of cars. They're going to keep up with the grip with the high-speed cars at certain parts of the track, and then they're going to also keep up with the grip cars in the long corner and hard braking areas. So I bet you're gonna find them with a plethora of enemies this week. They're not just gonna have they're not just gonna have to focus on the power cars this week. They're gonna have to focus a lot on everybody in the lobby, because everybody can take the fight to them this week. Everybody has a chance to. So the Ferrari team, mainly Serpent Racing, they're gonna have a lot to watch out for this week, and that is my final thought.
Real quick before I sign us off here, XPR Roadrunner, the caveat to what you just said, XPR Roadrunner has been on the podium twice now, so he's going to run with a 5% restriction. So that advantage that the Ferraris have to run with both classes does make the Ferraris very strong here, and I think Overdrive will probably capitalize on that if he can get the practice in that Brad is talking about. If he can do that, I think XPR Overdrive could win this race. I really do. I think he could win it. XPR Roadrunner with a 5% restriction. I know 5% doesn't mean the end of the world, but any restriction in something this competitive, I think, is the kiss of death for a podium. If you can get podium with a restriction, that's really impressive. And the last thing is that there's also and I realize we're already past the last thought, but the one thing we didn't talk about was the wild card at this track, and I'll leave it as our bombshell before we sign off. It's the largest mistake in the race, 4 million credits. It'll be interesting to see who takes home that prize. And with that, we'll go ahead and sign off. Listen to us next time on the Formula Forza Pre-Race Podcast as we get ready for Road America in another 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, make sure to spread the word about the podcast. Share it among the interwebs. See you later, boys and girls.
Hey ladies, you interested in a little WennaJ a trois?
Yeah, if you guys are interested, I got a pallet and a half of Magnums in the garage.